Hi, I'm Gavin, and welcome back to the S.O.U.N.D Project. Andrew, it's good to see you, man. This is Andrew Marshall.
You too.
Thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So I guess tell the audience a little bit about who you are and kind of what you do.
Sure. I'm a touring and studio drummer. I'm based in LA. I've been playing drums professionally for a long time, since I graduated from college, basically, and before. People might know me for playing with Billie Eilish and Phineas. And I've also played with lots of other artists along the way. And I love recording as well. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah. I remember when you reached out to us to help with your project. Actually, all these videos that we do is the reason that you reached out. You just emailed, said, "Hey, I watched all your videos. Like, how's this work?" So, so everything that we're doing here led us to getting to know each other.
Yeah. I loved all the studio tours, and I think it was sort of like it was just beginning at that point, the online video presence, and or you had done a few, and I like watched them all voraciously, and I was like, okay, I got to talk to these people. I want to do something like that.
Yeah.
So some really beautiful studios. It was really cool to watch them.
Thanks. And I'll also say you're one of the more supportive people of our channel, because you're within like the first 5 likes, I think, of almost every video. So I appreciate that.
I'm glad. I'm happy to support, and I'm also honored. Yeah. I have been doing a little bit of a social media cleanse these days, so my participation may have gone down.
Sorry, I know you still care.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not thinking that you fell off. So
yeah, good. We moved it offline. We're on text.
Yeah, we're okay.
Just hitting you up. Love your video.
Yeah, that works actually even better. So, but yeah, we've been working together for quite a while here on a project for you for your home, and just right now in the process of permitting and other things like that. But the design is pretty set, and it's a beautiful space, like what we've done so far, like rendering wise, and I think it fits your vibe. So
yeah, it's very zen. It's very calm. It feels like, I mean, the renderings are amazing. Like it's like that's what it's going to look like. And you having shown me some like photos versus renderings, I can be pretty confident that like it's going to be like that.
Yeah.
And it feels like a room that I want to spend a lot of time in, which is ultimately the whole point.
Right.
But yeah, we went back and forth a lot, and even down to like what types of sconces are going to be in there, or like what colors, like the floor, and all this stuff, and it was cool to like see that come to life. So yeah,
it's a big part of the process with these renderings, because it's like we're all visual people, like and again, we want to feel good in the room that we're going to be in for a long time, but some of those details, like it seems silly to let's change out these sconces this many times, or sometimes we're even like putting in exact gear that people have in the racks. But it's like, that those little details make a difference, I think. And it also affects, like in your case, like where we place the sconces affected like where the panels are placed as well. And so it all matters. So.
Yeah. And I think also like, I mean, probably a lot of people who are maybe building a studio for the first time, like such as myself, like we haven't gone through a process of like, visualizing or imagining what certain materials or designs or like layouts would look like. So, or like how big does the room feel? Like 20 feet means something, I guess. I have a vague idea of what that is, but when you render and you put a desk in there and a drum set and a chair and a shelf and like and another station or whatever, then you can really like get a feel for what that is. So it's kind of like it's really nice for an amateur such as myself in that way.
Yeah. No, it's we say it all the time. It's like we used to design studios without renderings, and now I'm looking back thinking, how did we do that? Like, I mean, they still turned out nice, but it's like so much easier to just show somebody.
Yeah, it's like a scary leap if to choose a material or to choose a color or to choose a type of paneling or whatever it is, like based off of a swatch or based off a picture or whatever.
Yeah,
a picture of it in some other studio. So I think that probably helps people make decisions a lot better. And, there's less going around and around, during the construction process.
Yeah. And so your studio that you're going to build is like a separate from your house. Like it's a separate structure, and so there's more involved in that than just renovating an existing space, obviously. And but there's also, I think there's something about that just nice to be able to walk away from your house to do your work and then come back a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like when people have home offices and have a little ADU unit that they can go to and kind of leave work at work. So I think that'll be nice for you.
Yeah, I think if it was actually inside my house, I would never be wearing anything other than pajamas.
Yeah.
And I would probably be a lot less productive.
Yeah.
Or shoes for that matter. So, you know, I mean, even just like a little bit of separation, like having to like go outside and like walk across the backyard. Some people like can't have their office or their studio on their like in the same area where they live.
Sure.
Like they have to get up, drive, and go somewhere.
Sure.
And I do understand that. For me, I am kind of a homebody. Sometimes I've got to do something that takes an hour. You know, if I'm like working on stuff before a rehearsal, or I want to get in an hour of practicing at night, or I just have to cut a track that's fast, or just an overdub or something like that. You know, I just, you know, if I have to drive somewhere, I'm like not going to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the perfect amount of separation for me, and it'll be nice.
Yeah.
Really nice.
So I'm excited for the studio to get started and completed, and so you can live in that for a while. I also want to talk about how generous you've been with, like, you got my niece and I some tickets to see Billy twice now. The first one was a huge undertaking at Lollapalooza.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember all of the things that went into that. I'm sure you do, where you got us wristbands, and then they didn't give us access where it's supposed to be. And then you got us another wristband, and then another wristband. And I couldn't believe, like, I didn't even want to bother you, but you have to let me know if these don't work. And eventually we got where we were supposed to be. Amazing show headlining Lollapalooza. I'm curious, like, do you like festival shows like more than like arenas or things like that? Do you like the outdoor concert venues?
Well, first of all, I was glad that worked out. I was really glad that you guys could, you know, see it from where you should have seen it. And yeah, I think they all have great things about them. I mean, I like playing theaters and clubs and small venues and jazz clubs, and you know, there's great things about every type of place. I do love playing outside generally. It's a really nice thing to, and then you end up spending the whole day outside, right? Because you know, you're kind of just on the festival grounds, or you know, your dressing room's a tent or whatever. And it's nice. It's a really nice thing.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering, what got you into drumming? Like, were you into that as a kid, or is it something that you picked up a little later?
You know, I thought it looked cool. That was really it. It's like such a lame story. I was 9, so I was young kid. And I had a friend who like played the drums in school, and I just thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Like, and like, you know, my parents are like supportive, and they're like, my whole family is really supportive, and like, you know, got me lessons and stuff, and like, you know, they got me a drum set, but no like professional musicians really. Like a lot of times, you know, somebody would be like, oh, like I had a sibling or a parent or like a grandparent or whatever who's like a professional musician.
Yeah.
A lot of people play music in my family, but that wasn't really the case. Although I had like a distant relative who was like a vaudeville dancer, funnily enough, and we always talk about that as like maybe that's where it came from.
Right.
But yeah, I just thought it looked cool, and they got me a drum set, got me some lessons, and it just kind of stuck. I wouldn't say I was like playing like all day, every day, or like rushing home after school to play, but I was like every day for a few minutes, I would go down and I would just like go downstairs and play, and like, it just stuck. And
Awesome.
I progressed, you know, I guess quickly for a kid that age, whatever. And,
Yeah.
I was lucky.
When did you end up moving out to LA?
I've been here since 2017, so about 7.5 years.
Okay.
And I had spent a lot of time in New York before that. I grew up in New York, and you know, I found that everybody I was working with either was moving to LA or had just moved to LA. Or there was a bit of an exodus happening.
Sure.
And, you know, there's still a lot of diehards there that will never leave, and I really appreciate that. And you know, I miss it to some extent, and I like going back there. But
now, do you like life on the road? Is that suit you well, or is it a challenge?
No, I love it.
Okay.
I feel like I've always been really well suited to touring. I sleep really well in a tour bus.
Yeah.
Actually, my parents always told the story, like when I was a baby, they would put me in the car and like drive up the highway, and I would fall asleep, which, you know, bodes well for my future, like
Sure.
living on a tour bus. But yeah, I mean, I always wanted to like be a person that could like recommend you a brunch place in Prague or
Yeah.
Berlin, or, you know, you got to go to this deli and like wherever. And I feel like I've amassed, you know, like a good like worldly knowledge of like a lot of places.
Yeah.
And I have cities that I've gone back to a bunch of times, and you know, I know my spots and stuff. And yeah, I like it. I like getting to travel.
Do you have any favorite venues or cities that you like to play?
I love Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
That's an amazing place. I love getting to go back there. Red Rocks is a classic, but it is really beautiful.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing place to play.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two that are coming up. Tokyo, always love going to Tokyo.
Okay.
No shortage of fun things to do there and amazing food.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I love playing in LA too, because I get to sleep in my own bed, which I do appreciate, you know, from time to time. Yeah.
Where do you usually play in LA? Is it at the Bowl or?
I think it's pretty much been the Forum the last last couple times. Have done the Bowl as well, and which is also an amazing outdoor venue, and the Greek, another one, so good.
So I'm curious, like the times you have spent in studios, are there certain types of rooms acoustically that you like when it comes to your drums? Do you like a really live, big sound, or is it more controlled? Like, what do you prefer?
It definitely depends on what I'm doing, of course. And I've, you know, played in both, and I've been in some studios where they have both.
Yeah.
You know, there's like maybe a big live room and a drum booth or something.
Sure.
And we always end up using both. Or maybe even both on the same song. Like you track some dead drums in the small room, and then whatever, some overdubs or, you know, some overheads or something in the big room. But I find more often that the booth thing is kind of what people go for quite a bit.
Sure.
Maybe it's pop music, maybe it's like working better with samples, you know, layered on drums. But yeah, and I love it, like a booth, you know, drum booth type sounds. It's always fun.
Yeah. I know you do a lot of session work and things, but do you have a certain like type of music that you like to play more than others?
That's a great question. I haven't really found that. I mean, I do get called mostly for what I call the 2 and 4 based music, or the backbeat based music, whether it's like rock, pop, hip hop, you know, R&B. That sort of general zone from a drummer's perspective, even though there's a lot of flavors and timbres, you know, you have to have a lot of gear to be able to do all that stuff.
Sure.
There are a lot of similarities. So, yeah, I mean, I like it all. And I will say the thing that I do like the most is variety. I like getting called to play a lot of different things, and I always have. I think growing up in New York, you get that, you know, that's kind of part of the thing. Like it was like really hammered into me from an early age. Like you got to be able to play all styles, and like really all styles. And I enjoy all styles, you know?
Yeah. Is that, as you're learning growing up as a kid and things like that, is the best way to learn it to play over tracks that you like, or is it just listening to that and then trying to emulate it?
I would say there was a lot of listening, you know, a lot of listening. Certainly playing over tracks is important, and like you learn that when you have to do that. But I kind of think there's like a lot of osmosis that happens, you know, like I've surprised myself that way. Like, you know, I can do a Zeppelin thing, for example, like, you know, or I can, you know, in a hack way, approximate that sound and playing. Like, I've never like played in a Zeppelin-y band. I've never really I don't even know. I might have done one Zeppelin cover once in my whole life, you know, but like, I mean, that music is just in the air. Yeah. So it's kind of like, well, you know what that is.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
know?
Well, I'm curious too, because I as a singer-songwriter, a lot of times I'm listening for the lyrics and the guitar and things like that. When you hear a new song of like some band that comes out, are you mostly focused in on the drum tracks, or is it a whole song experience for you?
You know, I really appreciate that question, because it's the drums and the rhythm section and the bass for me. And in a weird way that I like didn't think about until, I don't know, I guess I was like a little older. Like I sort of realized at some point, like I can't really sing any of my favorite songs. I don't know the lyrics.
Yeah.
In fact, this is kind of a funny story. I wanted to be part of this student group in college that they would like go on camping trips, like backpacking trips. And it was sort of like a goofy thing. And they would like take freshmen on the trip as like a pre-orientation thing. And I wanted to be like a counselor, like one of the like upperclassmen who like led these trips. So we had like an interview, and there was like an application to do this, and it was like sort of an audition almost, because it's like the whole vibe of the group was like very silly and jokey and like fun. And they were like, "What's your favorite song?" And I forget what it was, like "I Want You Back" or something. And they were like, "Oh, great. Can you sing it for us?" And I was like, "Oh, wow." And I sang the bass line.
Okay.
I sang the bass line, and it wasn't even like, "Oh, I don't know the lyrics. Maybe I can sing the bass line." It was literally like just knee jerk. I just sang the bass line.
That's what it
because
is.
that's what the song is to me, is the bass line.
Right.
And like after the fact, I walked out of the room, and I was like, "Huh, maybe I should have sung the lyrics. Maybe that's what they meant." You know,
It could have been,
but yeah.
I mean, that works. I have a lot of friends actually that are like that, where I just focus in on the bass and drums, and for me, it's just totally opposite. Sometimes I don't even know what's going on in that range. I'm just thinking about the lyrics. But
yeah, that's what makes the world go around.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Everybody's got their thing, but I do wish I had some more of an idea. I try more now.
yeah.
You know,
One thing that I know every musician's a little bit different, but do you have a certain approach in the studio, like how you get into recording a song, or like methods that get you ready to do the recording?
You know, I find that with drum recording especially, the setup is a lot, especially if I'm recording alone. And you know, I have friends who are studio drummers who have like developed like really quick workflows, and you know, things are set all the time, or they have go-tos and whatnot. And I do have that to some extent, but oftentimes, like if it's a brand new setup, it's kind of a day of setup, because by the end of it, I'm like, okay, I need to go eat dinner and come back tomorrow. You know, hopefully I got some sounds on the first day. And maybe I go a little nuts with it. Like I don't have to go that deep, but I don't have a one size fits all cookie cutter thing. Like every song is like, I'm swapping out bass drums and toms and snares and mics and like whatever, you know, and cymbals for sure. Like, I really end up, if I'm on a session and there's like a lot of drums available, I find that I really use them all.
Just use them, yeah.
You know, because it's like going through like a sample library, like hit this, hit that, you know.
Yep.
I just try to do the best by the song.
Yeah.
You know, I don't feel like I'm trying to put my signature on stuff, or, you know, just trying to hear what it is and do something that fits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know that was important too with your space we were designing for you, is have a storage area just outside of the studio that you could store a lot of drums and try different things out. And so I think that's going to be, you know, helpful for you at home too.
Yeah. I don't have the worst gear acquisition syndrome in the world. I'm better than some people, but you know, the reality is like, I mean, most guitar players or people who play on records, or bass players, whatever, or synth players for sure, like you need a palette.
Yeah.
And I have heard of drummers that like have one kit or two kits and like a couple snares, and you can get a lot of mileage with not a lot of gear. But I've found that I do end up rotating between like 4 to 6 drum kits and like 8 to 10 snares. And you know, again, that's not crazy. People would be like, wow, I have 25 kits and 50 snares. And you know, that's like, I don't know how I would manage all that, and more power to them. But
do you have kits that are designated that these are just road kits versus ones that you use in the studio?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They're totally separate worlds.
Nice.
Yeah.
I know some people have their studio kit, and it's like, I'm never taking this on the road because it's gonna get damaged and beat up and things like that. But
yeah, I took a vintage kit on the road once, and it sounded amazing, and it made it home intact. It was cool. I don't think I'm itching to do that again because I mean it didn't hold its tune. I mean, getting in, taking it out of a freezing cold trailer every day was like, it hurt my heart a little bit, for a kit that was like 50 years old.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love them.
Nice.
And yeah, I try not to be so precious about gear. I mean, I do love my gear, and there are things that are meaningful to me, but I do think that you can make music on a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And I think that ethos is kind of important, to not feel I need this to do that, or I need to have this thing or else I can't play or whatever. Yeah.
I think, some people are a little precious about it, or they just have to have things a certain way. And I always thought it was interesting. I read a thing about something that Jack White did. Have you ever heard about this? When he played live, to make it more of a challenge every single night, he would, if he had to go from one guitar over to a synth, every night they would place the synth a little further away, just so that it wasn't something that became a habit. Like, he's like, I need a challenge to be able to get over to this part of the stage to do this thing. And
cool.
Do you have anything like that, or is your setup like pretty locked in?
I actually do. I don't backline drums a lot, but when I do and when I have, I kind of like getting surprised by what is provided.
Okay.
Especially with snares. I'm kind of like, what, as long as it's like a good quality thing, usually there's something that's going to be cool about it that, and it'll inspire me to play in like a different way or something, or I'll feel a different way or something, you know what I mean? So I've always really appreciated that. Like I actually don't even specify. I think I specify metal or snares or something like that. I don't like over do it because it's just fun to have some variety.
See what you get. Yeah. That's cool. Well, Andrew, I appreciate you making the time to sit down with me and talk. And honestly,
Absolutely.
like just getting to know you over the last year or so has been really awesome. One of my when I see a text from you or a call, I'm just like, all right, this is a good day. So
likewise.
Yeah. So thanks for that. And looking forward to continuing on with getting your studio built, and then we'll come check it out someday.
Definitely. It's going to be great. Right. Really awesome.
Thanks so much.
My pleasure.
So that's been another episode of the S.O.U.N.D Project. Thanks for being a part of it. I'm curious, when you listen to a song, what is it that you focus in on? Please comment that down below, and we'll see you next week.